Welcome to the Bloomfield Township Election Commission Public Accuracy Test, Monday, February 12th, 2024. It's 9 o'clock. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a quick remark about attendance. We have full commission is present this morning, and we are here to go through the public accuracy test, which we have one of our tabulators here for that purpose. And Mr. Dave Crouch, our equipment coordinator and public accuracy test guru, is going to help us run through that. We start with, I guess, unsealing and starting the tabulator. We've got that handled.
Correct. We've done that.
Okay, great. So next, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on from public comment. And one other item to approve the minutes from the last meeting of January 25th, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay. Mr. Crouch.
Good morning, Commission. Today's public accuracy test is a demonstration of the tabulator scanner machine. We're going to run 3 separate test decks through it. The test decks come from an outside independent source with a predetermined spreadsheet of results. The tape will print off the tabulated results of each individual race that we're going to run, and we'll compare those against them. I'll have one of you, either you, Ms. Murray, or Mr. Barnett will run the individual test through, and we'll go from there. Before we get started, the Hart voting machine testing, all voting equipment must pass testing prior to each election. That's state law. Today's public accuracy will replicate this process. All Bloomfield machines are tested in accordance with State of Michigan Testing Procedure Manual for Tabulators and Voter Assist Guidebook. The tabulator test includes the outside vendor, as previously discussed, with the predetermined spreadsheet. The tabulator's tally tape of all voted ballots must match the spreadsheet exactly to pass this test. The testing deck from the tabulator's results tape will become part of the permanent record and be locked in this container with all the other precincts' tests. That's for audit purposes and as required by state law. The tabulators are then reset to 0 before they're being locked, sealed, recorded, and distributed to polling locations on the election day itself. The touch writers testing includes creating ballots for various additional tests. Some of these would include program validation, maximum and minimum votes, voted by position. Partisan ballots are created, nonpartisan positions are voted. Blank ballots are created and hardware test ballots are created. These added ballots create an additional test deck that also must be scanned for accuracy. Following the successful testing, all voting equipment is stored in a locked, secured location on the township campus within the Dave Payne Public Works building with 24-hour surveillance. And the voting equipment is then delivered by myself and the rest of my team, Chris Whitehead and Mike Cummings, who's back at the shop. Only the trained and sworn-in poll workers are they're the only other people that have access to this equipment prior to the election day itself. Having said that, we're going to disseminate the precinct 1 test pack that has been prepared and completed, and we'll run the public accuracy test. Does anybody have any further questions?
One point I want to make, which is this is the first township-wide and statewide early voting process. We have an early voting site in the township shared by the City of Birmingham, Southfield Township, and Bloomfield Township. It's at the Bloomfield Township Library. Their tabulators are tested by Oakland County.
Correct.
So those will not be addressed here today. Great. You guys want to help out?
Yeah.
We have put together a polling box along with the tabulator for that precinct.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we'll start with the smallest deck. As you can see, the scanner is showing ready for use. We're going to stand off to the side slightly so people can see. We've ran a zero tape. As you can see, all contests and all people have zeros. And it's as simple as take that deck and start pushing them through the machine one at a time.
One at a time.
One, please. One at a time. Now your first 4 or 5 ballots will probably pull up an error that's predetermined. The machine will recognize the error. In this case, library millage proposal, there's too many choices. Normally, that would give the voter the signal to go back and revote or correct the error. In this case, just cast them as is,
All right.
because that's part of the process. Once you see the flag, you're ready to move on. Or the runway lights when they turn green. Again, cast as is. Perfect.
So I just to state the obvious, we've got several versions of this very simple ballot because there's numerous ways individuals might make mistakes, and the machine is being tested to
Correct.
identify mistakes and catch them.
Go ahead. Between undervote, overvote, wrong
Gray
party,
marks,
stray marks, interruptions in the barcoding, which it reads to know what precinct it's in.
That one was good.
Correct. There's a multitude of issues that could come up. Two more.
And it doesn't matter which way you put it in. You can put it
No,
upside down,
frontward,
straight,
backwards, upside
backward.
down,
Yep.
any way you want. Now this one, it's going to kick back to you because as you can see, the barcode is blacked out. That's by design. That simulates a wrong precinct vote. So if somebody came from somewhere else, had a ballot in their hand, then just withdraw that.
So it didn't matter which way I put it in, it was going to catch that in.
That
Right.
one it will. The next deck, put them in any way you want. Okay, so that's one complete test. Part of the process is, at this point, I will close the polls. I will enter a poll worker code. At that point, I'm going to turn the machine around so the public doesn't get access to that code. And then it's going to run a tally tape. That tally tape will give us our results that we'll compare to the spreadsheet. By the way, will you get those spreadsheets?
Each of those ballots, yes.
Correct.
The legitimate ones.
Correct. So it'll always ask you a second time, yes, close the polls. Why don't you go ahead and do it? There we go. Now we need the password or the coding. So the polls are closing. It'll automatically run the tally tape we need. Then it'll attempt to transmit to the county the results. It does not transmit via the internet. It only transmits encrypted wireless. And it does not accept any data. It only sends data out. That's the only thing the modem will do. We'll stop that process and then we'll run the tape. And I'll show you that process. Nonpartisan.
So it's showing cast votes as opposed to your test. Which was
Down here. See, it's not voting any of the people because this is only the library millage test. So we're going to cancel the one. You can tear this off.
okay.
We're going to cancel that. It'll repeat that test. And what we're going to do is clear the ballots and counters. Yes, as you can see, it tallies them down here. To do that, I need to remove the seal. We're going to compare those two seals to that one and this one for your paperwork.
So that seal shows that nobody's tampered.
That seal is a tamper-proof seal for the duration of the election. At the end of the night, they will open this. They'll access the entire elections on this. It's called a Verity key or a V drive. In order for me to clear the ballots and counters, though, or to make any alterations to the vote, you have to have this designated key that only I have and the clerk.
So that's not available to anybody at the polling station.
Nobody. There's only 2 of them. And it's a distinct and separate code from any code that the poll workers would have. Again, just another layer of security. Now we can compare the tape. If you two will do that for me. And what you're going to do, thank you. No, I need the nonpartisan.
It is nonpartisan.
No.
Nonpartisan.
No. Trust me. You need this one right here, dear.
This has nonpartisan. Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sure.
That's all right.
Okay,
That's a good point.
so down here, you're going to show, this shows the errors, various votes. Down here, you have a total of a 2 and a 1. And when we scan our results, we have all zeros, including the nonpartisan. And then we get down to the elected portion, or the voted portion, and we have a 2 and a 1. Yes and a no, 2 and 1. And you got to also compare here, yes, 2, 1, no, 1. These other 2, these are undervotes or overvotes. They're part of the error process. But these are the 2 that count.
Okay.
So this was a successful test. And we'll move on now. We have to do 1 for Democratic and 1 for the Republican Party.
And this is the only time we end up having 3 different ballots, having to run at 3 different times, because the presidential primary is, essentially 3 separate primaries. In our case, we've got a ballot initiative, which is a standalone thing.
It's a nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan. Then we've got the Republican Party's ballot and the Democratic Party's ballot, both of which, by the way, contain the ballot proposal. And so here we go again.
Yeah, it's the only time you have to designate which party you want to vote for. This. Okay, so we're going to print another 0 report. You can see our counters and our sheets are at 0.
Close that back up.
We don't really have to close it, but. So that's going to pull up all names, all parties, and the nonpartisan as zeros all the way down. You can watch that come up.
All 3 zeros.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's your 0 report. Now we'll open the polls. Again, I'm sorry, I have to.
Go ahead.
Again, your first, I'd say roughly 5 to 6 ballots will have an error that you will have to cast as is, because that's part of, again, where you get your undervotes and overvotes. We need those to go through, even though.
You don't pull them out from everything is accounted for.
Correct.
Okay.
And once you get to the point where it doesn't kick it back, then put the ballot in any way you want. Upside down, backwards, forwards.
Yeah, you can see this one's got trouble.
Yeah, that one simulates stray marks, like the children played with it. It'll still count it. Except that it says that you made no choices, but that was by design.
So still cast it.
Yes.
No, but it's not the cast.
Correct. It's just simulating it. It picks up a blank ballot. And this should be an overvote.
Oh, 'cause I saw double
Right.
votes.
And it'll not only tell you that you made too many, it'll tell you which one.
Okay.
So you know where to go look. Cast as is. And I think this will be your last rejected ballot.
Oh, voted way too many.
Yeah. Now it should start running them through at a pretty good clip. Whoops. Okay, so feed one in upside down and backwards. There you go. And the reason that works, it takes a laser scan here and here, and then the software photocopies the ballot, reinterprets it, and votes it. So it really doesn't matter how it goes in.
Okay, this one I just flipped over.
You'll notice both sides of the ballot have barcoding. There's 3 of them on both sides. That's how it knows what precinct it's in and what election this is. And then it'll only read this column. Nowhere else on this ballot unless it was a double road ballot. So whatever you put from here over, you could make this completely black. It would still vote the ballot as long as you don't interfere with the barcode.
Okay, this one I'm just putting in, turn it around. And it likes it, right?
Get that Democratic spreadsheet. Awesome.
I'm flipping a few around just for fun.
Yeah. I try to fool them every day. We have 18 precincts every day. Never can fool them.
Well, that's where you want it.
Yeah, since I think 17 was the first. Do you know, 17 was the first year we had these machines?
Yes, the first time we used them was November 17th.
I think the only time we fooled any of these machines is when we ran 2 ballots through. One time. We thought you could separate them, but it doesn't.
Okay, this one I did not like.
That's okay. That's by design. It simulates a wrong precinct,
Okay.
as in the barcodes aren't lining up. That's exactly what it was supposed to do.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we're done. We'll close the polls. I'll have to put a code in at some point. It'll always ask you a second time. And we'll get our spreadsheet that we can compare to these results. And on this sheet, whoever reads the sheet will read the name and the amount of votes they should have. And then whoever reads the tape can, and we'll go all the way down, including the 2 and 1 for yes and no.
Okay.
And that's how we'll know we're correct. Okay, so you can see the zeros. And when you get down here, here's the results that Val will read to you. And then you scroll down to this nonpartisan, and then she'll read these two also. There won't be any in the Republican.
Okay, so for Biden, I have 5.
That's up here, you're right there.
Okay.
For Phillips, I have 4. For Williams, I have 3. For uncommitted, I have 2. Write-in, I have 1. And then library millage.
It should be here.
I have 2 yes and 1 no.
Everything match?
That's it. Then.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
So this test 2, should this
Yeah, the only way it may throw you would be like down here. It says yes, 2 and 1, but then you have undervotes and overvotes. Every one of those ballots you put in, if they were just the library, it'll still list them. But the only ones that count, which are the good ballots, has to match that sheet.
Great.
You good?
Keep a record of this in our, for audit purposes if that ever happens.
We have one more test to run, and we'll be done. We're clearing the counters. You see there 19. You get the fun one. I think there's 48,
All right.
Oh, good thing we got
maybe
the
49. We'll again run a 0 tape. Once it lets me open the polls. Yeah, so in essence, this election, because it's the partisan and you have to pick Republican or Democrat, or you can do nonpartisan, we in essence have 3 separate elections within one election. And that's why it's the rare event once every 4 years we have to do the 3-time test. It takes a few, it's slow.
While we're waiting for that, when you get back up here, you'll note in your packet is the chart that was created by my office, which shows each of the tabulator serial numbers, which were assigned to which precinct. This is precinct 1. Testing dates when Dave and his team conducted the accuracy tests, and also a new item, far right column, is the serial number that will be on the security cabinet
Cages.
that
Yep.
every precinct will have. So in the past, presently, we will deliver this item and other secure items in a locked and sealed cabinet, which will only be unlocked the morning of the election.
The other item is anytime you do anything on these machines, the printer will give the header and it'll say printing a 0 report and it'll explain it. And then this one, it's opening the polls. It gives you the date, the time, the machine, everything. So we can go through either through the hardware and through the software and hard drive or through the tape and see who did what and when. That's another part. You're ready, anytime you're ready. Again, the first, I want to say roughly 6 you're going to have to cast as is. You don't have to pull them out, just cast them, and then you can put them in any way. You can do that now, too. You can put them in any way you want. It doesn't matter. And then once this turns green, you can feed it. With the possible exception of errors that it notices and kicks out, the only other time this machine ever will kick a ballot back out is if it can't read the barcode, because then it senses that it's either misaligned or it's the wrong precinct altogether.
This should probably be the last one we have kicking out.
That should be your first good one right there. You get that pause, you're good.
Yep.
Now they're going to run.
Okay. together here.
So once they're counted, they go down into the secured box.
Yeah, the machine has a slot cut on the bottom of it, and when it feeds it in, the ballot box also has a little slot cut in it. This machine is locked to this ballot box. It can't come off.
But then after an election, this is a new election committee.
Yep.
So then that box is loaded with all the
Correct.
ballots, and then they come out of there and are stored.
What happens is after 8 p.m. on election night, the chair people make an announcement that the election is closed, assuming everybody in line has voted, and we're all past that. They close the polls, they shut the machine down, the machine transmits the results. The V drive, which is the memory stick, comes back to the township. The ballot box gets unlocked. It goes into what we call a ballot transfer bag. It's basically a sort of a sideways black suitcase. They go in there along with a bunch of other election material. They get locked, sealed, returned to the township. The chairperson and the co-chair come up here, and then they go to what we call the receiving board.
They're jammed.
Oh, no problem. Just,
You ever go through again? Okay.
yeah, if you just hold it up a little or the roller gets off a little. They go through the receiving board. The receiving board then checks the seal, unlocks it, compares it to the records, and then goes through all of their stuff to make sure what they have is what they're supposed to have. And then that V drive comes to the township and gets uploaded onto our hard drive only, not through the internet or anything like that. That's all part of. What happens is the ballots then go into a large ballot security duffel bag, in essence, down in my area. It gets sealed, locked, and recorded, and they're retained for a minimum of 2 years or post any challenges. So once the county and the state certify the election, they get stored for 2 years minimum. And then they all get shredded eventually. So the possession of the ballots never leaves the poll workers and or the clerk's staff at any time.
And they're all safely secured in there all day, so
Right.
lots of security measures in place.
There can be a need on occasion to open the box if ballots pile up, and there's a procedure for that. The 2 members of the precinct staff would open it. One be a Democrat, one be a Republican. They would open it together and verify that everything was done properly.
They make an announcement in accordance with state law. They obviously would do the same thing. They'd turn the machine around away from the public. They would open it simply enough to shuffle, and that's usually only when we have the 22, 24-inch ballot. If you get a lot of voters showing up, then they can stack up, and all they're doing is moving the mound around. It's very rare, but it does occasionally happen.
It's worth noting too, perhaps while we're still doing this, is that there's multiple ways that the accuracy is maintained. One, we're doing this test. This is the second test for this machine. But at the end of the day, the ballot count, it's on the memory stick, as you mentioned, it's on the memory stick. It's transmitted, encoded cellular transmission. It's printed out, the tape prints out the results. And then we have the ballots too. And all of those things ultimately will match and have to match. If someone could perhaps intercept the transmission, which is, again, because it's cellular and encrypted, that's an unlikely event, we would immediately see that because it wouldn't match the memory stick, it wouldn't match the printout, it wouldn't match the ballots.
I think it just went in crooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the critical part, is the ballots are maintained for a minimum of 2 years, and the county will do sporadic audits, and it seems like we always get picked. So they'll pick a precinct or two and say, bring them up, and it has to match exact. And if it doesn't, then our entire precinct or our entire township will probably get audited. But we always maintain the ballots, so no matter what the count, no matter what the challenge, we have the physical ballots on hand
Right. So
for years.
The ballots, the tape, and the
Transmission.
Correct. And this testing, in essence, just validates that the machine's ready to go. And when it gets to the precinct, they're locked, secured, and sealed. So they know that that's perfect.
Okay, so we're finished with
Yes. Now that, again, was the blacked out.
That's the number barcode.
So it simulates a different precinct. So you should have, and you do have, 49 on your count. We're going to close the polls again. We're going to input a code. And we'll get our tally tape and compare the results.
One last thing I'm supposed to note while we're waiting is that we obtain our test decks and test ballots from a third party not related to us or HART.
Right.
So some organizations may purchase their test deck from HART itself. We just see that it's better to get it from a
you can
third
tear
party.
it.
So the test deck and the machine are not from the same entity.
And Dale's going to read the names. You can see the Democrats are 0. Oh, this is your 0 count. I'm sorry. We'll get down to the voter area.
Okay.
You're going to start there, and then you're going to drop down to the, oh, they're right next to each other.
Okay.
She's going to read the first 2 here, and then all of these.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Haley, 9.
They may not be in order.
Yep.
Hutchinson, 8. Ramaswamy, 7. Trump, 6. Binkley, 5. Christie, 4. DeSantis, 3. Uncommitted, 2. And 1 write-in.
Correct.
And the proposal was 2 yes and 1 no.
Correct.
Okay.
Very good.
It's a match.
Now I'm not nervous anymore. You know, funny, no matter how many times I do it, no matter how many times, because there's 18 precincts, they all get checked down below. I still expect at some time to have, because we make mistakes, we have to hand create some of these ballots.
Sure.
That's also part of it. The test deck comes from an independent source, but we use paper that comes from HART, or HART-approved paper, which is the machine manufacturer. So we have to hand generate some of these ballots, 3 of them actually, to make sure that it not only reads the test deck, but it'll read our ballots as well.
Sure.
With that, I will clear your ballots and counters, and that'll conclude our test. Thank you for your help and input.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you guys do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of testing and work goes into preparing the machines for each election.
Just take all that back.
And this was just, we saw one machine here today. Next item is number 6 on the agenda. And behind that tab, you see 2 reports. One is the tabulator program testing and security certification. So I want to hand you these things here. So you'll see, here's the tab that was taken off of the seal that was taken off the tabulator. So if you look at the precinct number 1, it should match the device on the table,
And they're all numbered.
and each one is numbered. So this is 266, ending in 266, which is the number on our chart here. After today, this will be resealed and not open again until election morning by the precinct workers. The only other tape here, this is another seal. This was 262, which is on the security chart again, indicating that it was the bag's test deck seal. And any questions about the 2 certificates? There's the voter assist terminal one and then the tabular one. Okay. Well, I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the testing certification for the voter assist terminal and the tabulator and authorize election commission to sign it.
So moved.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Okay. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, we'd look for motion to adjourn.
No, this, I, was a little less familiar. Dave and Chris are great, and I appreciate that everything went so smoothly.
Great. Thank you. Thanks to the team. And a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Support. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank